Hi, welcome to the Socialist Magic Show, where your taxes pay for everything you need. Guaranteed money, health care, free college tuition, and everyone gets their fair share of toilet paper. If you run out, free constipation shots are available at your local pharmacy care station, so we all can be full of poop together. Doggy bags will be handed out if the lines are too long. While there, renew your brain chip so we can keep track of your every need and every thought. So without further ado, cross your legs and hold your nose. This is the Socialist Magic Show. It's spellbinding.
She's looking at herself on television right now. How are you feeling? Can you put it into words?
Nope.
No?
Socialist. Socialist. Say it again. Socialist candidate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez appeared stunned that she brought down the 10-term congressman.
She represents the future of our party. Alexandria's victory was just a remarkable reminder of the depth that we have in the Democratic Party.
But democratic socialism is about more than economics. The DSA's official Twitter account demands reparations for African Americans in the form of free and open enrollment at public colleges, retroactive forgiveness of student loans, and a guaranteed lifetime minimum income. The DSA has also called for an end to all immigrant deportations everywhere in the United States. In New York, the DSA has demanded the abolition of profits, prisons, cash bail, and borders. Not all democratic socialists have the same views on everything, but that gives you some idea. Unlimited, uncontrolled immigration into the U.S., coupled with race-based reparations, the abolition of prisons, and by extension law and order itself, and a massive expansion of the welfare state financed by an economic system that does not recognize profit. How would that work exactly? Has it ever worked in any country in the world? Those suddenly seem like relevant questions. At this pace, a democratic socialist could get the Democratic nomination at some point and be elected president. So we thought it was a perfect moment to speak to possibly the most famous of all advocates for democratic socialism, Cornel West. He's a professor at Harvard. He's an honorary co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America, and he joins us tonight. Cornel, thank you for coming on.
No, thank you, and it's good to be in dialogue with you once again, no, brother.
Yes, it is. So to give us some sense of what democratic socialism is, can you point to an example, an extant example of it that works? Venezuela seems like an example of democratic socialism. Would you say that it is? And if so, does it work?
You know, it's funny that I expected you to bring up Venezuela. It's such a weak talking point. You're talking to somebody who lives in a city that's got over 50,000 homeless people.
Some are bad,
so
some
this
are
diversion,
medium, some are better. But the fundamental commitment is to the dignity of ordinary people and to make sure they can live lives of decency. So it's not an ism, no, brother. It's about decency. It's about fairness. Right. It's about the accountability of the powerful vis-a-vis those who have less power. The workplace, women dealing with the household, gays, lesbians, trans, black people, indigenous peoples, immigrants. How do we ensure that they are treated decently and that the powerful don't in any way manipulate, subjugate, and exploit them?
Well, I mean, if that's what democratic socialism is, then I'm basically on board. I do think that ordinary people, middle-class people, ought to have dignity. And I think that our current systems make it hard for them to have dignity. So I agree with all of that. But the details matter.
And that's precisely why, that's why Albert Einstein, Helen Keller, Norman Thomas, Eugene Debs, Martin Luther King Jr., Ella Baker. We can go on and on. They're all democratic socialists. Michael Harrington, one of the great founders of Democratic Socialism of America. I've been a member for 36 years.
I understand. But has it struck you as interesting that it's never actually worked anywhere? So the question is not what are our goals. Our goals are the same. How do we get there is the question. So what happened in Venezuela? They call that democratic socialism, but they don't have toilet paper. And it's less equal than ever.
But part of the problem is, though, brothers, that any time there's been the attempts of ordinary people to engage in self-determination.
This is my America. America's the greatest nation in the world, and I'm fighting for America and the will of the people, and Donald J. Trump is the will of the people.
So if a government's obligation is to its own citizens, and you drop the borders and have no border enforcement at all, what would happen to this country? What would happen to the poor people in this country? Would their lives get better? Would they become more prosperous? No. This country would become poorer, dirtier, impossible to manage. It would be flooded with the poor of the world, and it would destroy our country instantly. So why would you say no borders?
Let's say this. I don't know how much you earn, but let's just say hypothetically it's $1 million, right? Let's say you were taxed at 70%.
Perspectives and orientation, we all don't agree on one particular policy all the time. This is true in terms of Israeli occupation of Palestinians. Some are in the middle, some are much more critical like myself. The question is, how do you keep track of the rich humanity of Mexican brothers and sisters? Of those coming from Latin America, those coming from Africa, those coming from Haiti, and those coming from Europe and Asia. That's the important thing. We know the history of America, other than indigenous peoples and Africans who've been enslaved, was to open the borders, to bring folk in, to allow people to gain access. But it's not a matter of no borders at all. It's a matter of how do you ensure that their dignity is affirmed when they arrive so that you don't end up having the kind of neo-fascist policies of the Trump administration separating these precious children from their mothers and fathers.
That's silly, as you well know. But how do you think that the descendants of Americans... But hold on. How do you think the descendants of American slaves benefit when you bring in 25 million illegal, or happier when you bring in more poor people? You ignore their problems. That's why we don't pay any attention to their problems anymore.
My dear brother, but if we no borders, I don't believe in just no borders myself. It's a question of making sure their dignity is affirmed when they get here.
Then you got to get a hold of the DSA of New York's Twitter account, because they're saying some pretty reckless
we got a number of voices in DSA. I love it. We believe in disagreement.
Let's say this. I don't know how much you earn, but let's just say hypothetically it's $1 million, right? Let's say you were taxed at 70%. If you can't get by on $300,000 in a country where so many are struggling, just let me finish. This is why you're having a problem right now. This smug smarminess in the face of suffering, it's not resonating with folks. Your days are over.
Well, listen, I would say this. I would say in the countries that have socialist policies, there's more suffering. In China, in Cuba, in Venezuela, and the Soviet Union, that system didn't work. And it wasn't those countries, and it's not those countries that...
What this smug, moronic idiot doesn't understand, the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money.
Feed the world and protect the world. It's the United States of America, and we have capitalism.
The United
States
destroys the world. The United States feeds and protects the world? You got to be kidding me. Conservative estimates since World War II show that the U.S. has killed at least 20 million people since World War II. The United States is an imperialist country. Its riches are built on the backs
I don't know what you would have done with Nazi Germany. I don't know what you would have done with Nazi Germany, but I think America made the right decision there. I will have you back on, and we'll give you more time, and we can discuss things in more specific. But you know what? We got to pay the bills because we got to sell advertising. We got to have a commercial break.
I know you do.
Thank you very much.